Good afternoon. Welcome to the National Book Festival. My name is Christina Barron. I'm the Kids Post editor at the Washington Post, one of the charter sponsors of this event. I want to thank festival co-chairman David Rubenstein and the other generous sponsors who have made this event possible. If you'd like to add your financial support, please note the information in the program. We may have time for a few questions at the end of this presentation. I've been asked to remind you that if you come up to the microphones here, you will be included in the videotape of this event, which may be broadcast at a later date. Now, I'd like to welcome Katherine Applegate back to the Book Festival. She was here in 2013, which was a very big year for her. Katherine won the Newbery Medal, the top prize in children's literature that year, for the one and only Ivan. It was a novel based on a real silverback gorilla who spent 27 years confined to a shopping mall. She let Ivan narrate the story and helped readers consider what an animal might think about its own captivity. The book has captivated millions of kids and adults, not by preaching about cruelty, but by creating a story that's also about unexpected friendships, courage, and self-discovery. Since then, Katherine has woven other important issues into compelling stories with unusual characters. She tackled homelessness with the help of an oversized imaginary cat in Crenshaw. A gentle red oak was at the center of a story about racism in Wish Tree. And this year came the first book in a trilogy about a species so close to extinction that it's believed there's only one left. In Endling the Last, we meet Bix, an animal called a dairn. Dairns look like dogs, but they stand upright, have fingers, and a pouch. They can talk and glide like flying squirrels. Pretty cool, right? But dairns aren't the only species Katherine dreamed up for Endling. When the book landed on my desk, I saw this adorable big-eared creature on the cover. You probably can't see it. And thought, it has huge ears, thought, what is that? And as I dove into the world of dairns, wobixes, and other fascinating animals, I realized Katherine had created yet another story that would enthrall as well as educate. I happily included it in this year's Kids Post Summer Book Club. I look forward to finding out where the story goes from here. Endling the First will be out next spring, and the final book, Endling the Only, in 2020. I'm delighted Katherine is here to share more about Endling. Please welcome Katherine Applegate.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I used to live in Alexandria and in Annapolis, and I have family all over Virginia, so it's kind of like coming home. The humidity, immediately, I knew what I was getting into because I live in California now and we don't have humidity. We have earthquakes, mudslides, and fires instead. But it's so cool to see all of you, and I'm really excited. I'm going to talk really fast because I have a lot to show you. I'm going to start by telling you a secret. Now, when I do this at schools, I ask the adults to cover their ears. And invariably, I get maybe 50% compliance because, teachers. But I'm going to try it here. Okay, grown-ups, cover your ears. Kids, here we go. This is my terrible secret. When I was your age, I really, really, really hated to read. And I know I'm not supposed to say that. And most of the writers you're going to talk to or see or have sign your books, they loved reading. I mean, they were reading in the womb. And they were reading with a flashlight under the covers. They loved to read. I just kind of thought it was boring. And now I have a daughter who has dyslexia, which makes it very challenging to read, although with good teachers, you can really overcome it. But that wasn't my problem. I just kind of didn't get the point. And then I found my book. And some of you may have read this book and you may think it's your book, but no, this book is my book, Charlotte's Web. And for me, that was lightning going off. That was doors opening. It was everything I ever wanted. It was a perfect book. It was a perfect book for me. But you know what? There may not be a lot of Charlotte's Web enthusiasm in your soul. You may be somebody who loves graphic novels, or maybe you love nonfiction, or maybe you love poetry. It doesn't matter. There's a book out there that is going to be like your very best friend in the whole wide world, like it was written just for you and you and you. And when you find it, you are going to be a happy.
Presentation for this afternoon is now at capacity. Again, the Madeline Orwell presentation for this afternoon is now at capacity. Please check your programs and apps for the afternoon programs and presentations. Again, the Madeline Orwell presentation for this afternoon is now at capacity. Unfortunately, no additional guests will be allowed to enter.
Wow. So you made the cut. Way to go. I guess they're saying there are so many people here today. That is really amazing. I love seeing that many book lovers in one giant place like this. And I wasn't always a book lover, nor was I always a reader. This is my official author photo. You will notice I am, in fact, wearing pajamas and surrounded by tons of, that's not toilet paper, that's crumpled paper. And the reason is I always show this to kids because I want you to know one thing. This is the only thing you have to remember, okay? Writing is about making mistakes. So when you try to write your stories, be prepared to fail. You are going to fail magnificently, and you're going to fail a lot, okay? It's about making mistakes. It turns out, interestingly enough, life is about making mistakes too. It took me a while to figure that out. But it's fun once you realize that if you write, you are going to rewrite. Now, I realized something. Tell me something. Does that cat look happy to you, just out of curiosity? Wouldn't you say mad? I looked all over the internet for a mad picture, and somehow to me this was perfect, a wet cat. I write better books when I'm mad, and it took me a while to realize that. I've written a lot of books. I mean, I wrote Disney books and Little Mermaid and 17 Sweet Valley Twins for certain people of a certain age in this audience. Yes, thank you. Jessica, Elizabeth. And I found that when I was mad, I wrote better books. I wrote Home of the Brave, which is about a Sudanese refugee who comes to our country because I was mad about the way refugees and immigrants were being treated. I think it's an amazing thing to come to this country and start from scratch. I think it's an amazingly brave thing. I like you guys. I wrote Ivan because I was mad about this little guy. That's Ivan on the left and Burma, his twin sister, on the right, plucked from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, shipped off to, of all places, Tacoma, Washington. The very top there where it says world famous, that's a picture of Ivan. Ivan lived for 27 years in a mall alone because his sister died almost immediately. And that story just freaked me out and made me mad, and I thought nobody on earth is going to want to read a book from the point of view of a gorilla, but I'm going to tell it anyway because I'm mad. I wrote Crenshaw because I was upset about the fact that 1 in 5 kids in our country is hungry sometimes. And it's very much a book about hunger and homelessness, but it's also about a great big invisible cat because I just thought that'd be really cool. Also, if you haven't seen, there's an old Jimmy Stewart movie called Harvey, which was the catalyst for this. It's absolutely where I got the idea. It's very old and very black and white, but it's hilarious, and that's where I got the idea for Crenshaw. I wrote Wish Tree during the throes of the election. And there was a whole lot of red and bluing going on, and a whole lot of meanness, and a whole lot of vitriol, and a whole lot of othering of entire groups of people. And I was so mad that I wrote this book really fast and with great ferocity, although it's a very, very gentle book, because I wanted it to be for young kids so they could understand what racism was about, what unkindness was about. So I decided to tell it from the point of view of a red oak, a POV I had never attempted, had some difficulties because it turns out trees don't move around a whole lot, so that assemblage of animals helped out. And it really helped me because I wrote about a little girl named Samara, a Muslim girl, who moves in next to this tree, and someone carves the word leave, L-E-A-V-E, into Red's bark. It's a hate crime. And the tree decides to do something about it. So what I've discovered is that books build bridges. And how does that happen? It happens because we're in somebody else's head, or maybe some tree's head, or some gorilla's head, and all of a sudden you're thinking in a different way, and we call that empathy, which is just a very fancy way of saying imagining with your heart. After I wrote Home of the Brave, some kids in Massachusetts experienced empathy, imagined with their hearts, and raised enough money for this young man, whose name is Kowal, to go back to Sudan and find his brother. He was a lost boy. After I wrote Crenshaw, or Ivan rather, hundreds of schools, I mean, this is really impressive, have adopted gorillas through various programs like the Diane Fossey Fund, and sponsored this incredibly rare and vanishing species. Another side benefit of having written Ivan is that it's turning into a movie. And it should be out, I think, don't quote me, next summer. I went to London recently and got to watch them filming it. It has the coolest cast. It's going to be CG and CG live-action hybrid. So Angelina Jolie is in it, and Bryan Cranston. Helen Mirren plays a poodle. Danny DeVito plays Bob the dog. It's just the coolest thing. And that would never have happened had I not written the book. That little girl, you may recognize her. She was in a Disney show called Stuck in the Middle. Her name's Ariana Greenblatt, and she is playing Julia. After I wrote Crenshaw, there were lots and lots of nationwide food drives. And we're continuing to do that, and that has been incredibly gratifying. Excuse me, water. I also have rediscovered my allergies since returning here. Excuse me. I shall talk quietly. After I wrote Wish Tree, people started making wish trees. Wish trees are actually very common. They're all over the world. You tie your wishes onto the branches. So this is an outdoor version. This is an indoor version. This is just magnificent, but they're all beautiful. And people put their wishes on them. I love this one. I wish there would be no more bullying in the world. And this one, I wish that hugs could solve everything. I think we all wish that. But this is one of my favorites. This was an adult. She was at a book convention. You guys are all going to be making the same wish by the end of the day, I guarantee you. So when I talk to kids, I often have them make a wish for themselves, and a wish for someone else, and a wish for the world. And it helps you think about other people in a whole new way. By the way, I'm going to be signing later, I think 3:30 to 4:30, and I have about 100 of them, these window clings. They're beautiful. They look like that, and you can put them on your school window or wherever, and I'm happy to give them away, so feel free to grab one. So that brings me to Endling, and I wrote Endling because I was mad about this. Endling is not a word you'll yet find in most dictionaries. A couple are starting to use it. It was recently employed because we are seeing what a lot of people are calling the sixth great extinction. We are losing massive quantities of species, and this time it appears to be man-made. Sorry. Okay. It appears to be man-made. And Endling is a word that refers to the last animal. Oh God, this is going to be good, huh? I've never done this before. It's really weird. It refers to the last animal, or it could be any kind of species, but it's the very last individual in a species. And we have a lot of those, unfortunately. Now, I had written fantasy before, including a series called Animorphs, which is like 63 books with my husband, Michael Grant, and we created some really weird species, including yerks. They're little slugs that climb into your ear and kind of eat out your brain and take over. So I knew all about making species, but I decided with Endling I was going to do something really interesting. I love dogs, so I decided to create the perfect dog. The perfect dog is Bix. Bix is a Darren, sort of a Labrador. She can walk upright. She has a pouch because, it's easier than having a backpack. She walks, has fingers, opposable thumbs, very useful in an adventure, and she can glide like a flying squirrel. I created Tobble, who is a Wabik. I used a fennec fox. Have you ever seen a fennec fox? They are so adorable. Only I made him bigger. Giant ears, blue-gray fur, really cute. Great big eyes, and incredibly feisty when needs be. Now, a lot of times when I do school visits, you're just going to have to come back in an hour, Claire. Jeez Louise. Cough drop might be good. A lot of times what I do is I have kids make their own species. This is so fun because you can take anything. Ask yourself, what would my species look like? What would they eat? Who would their enemy be? It's really fun. Do they have giant ears? Can they fly? Can they swim? Can they do both? Can they talk? Do they have a religion? Do they have a philosophy? It is so much fun. And a lot of times at schools, I'll have kids come up with 3 traits, and they'll tell me, and they are always the coolest of cool species. You also, of course, need to make a map. Where is that going to be? Could be anywhere. Could be on Earth. Could be a whole different place. And you need characters. I decided to have a couple humans because what the heck, they're brave and they're kind of fun. I decided to have interesting home life. That's a Mirror Bear hive. I decided to have many adventures, including giant serpents. Bix attends her own funeral. She meets up with giant raptors. And most interesting, I gave Bix the ability to tell when people are lying. I have a question for you. If you could have the ability to tell when your friends were lying to you, would you like that? Raise your hand if you think that's a cool idea. Pretty good turnout. Okay. Now let me ask you this. If your parents had the ability to tell when you were lying, would you like that? No. That is why Bix is both very valuable and very dangerous. Now, I talked about being mad, like a wet cat. Well, endangered animals make me mad, and here are just a few of them. Tigers, whooping cranes, blue whale, Asian elephant, sea otter, orangutans, gorillas, eastern and western gorillas, red wolf. So what can you do? Well, a lot of things, and some of it starts with politics when you get older, but meantime, some of it has to do with climate change. There are a whole lot of reasons we're losing animals. And one of the things you can do is turn off your lights. You can recycle. You can pick up trash. You can unplug electronics. I'm really bad at that. You can use both sides of paper. You can take shorter showers. You can volunteer in your community. I like this one. Become an expert. Pick a species. And it doesn't have to be a cute, cuddly, adorable baby mountain gorilla. It could be anything you want, and become an expert on it. When you do that, you see success stories. Manatees are coming back. Trumpeter swans are coming back. Bald eagles are coming back. So there is hope. Now it's your turn to take over. I want you guys to get mad. Think about something that really makes you mad. Build some bridges, and you become our next heroes. Now we have time for just a few questions because I was busy choking. Sorry about that. Does anybody want to ask anything to me about anything? I try to pretend I'm a gorilla expert, but I'm really not. Yeah. Oh, technology. It's wonderful when it works. You want to yell? You can just yell.
Made you?
Oh, there we go. Go ahead. Speak into the mic now.
What made you want to write Ivan?
Oh, you know what? I saw that story and I was mad, but I was also fascinated. How would a gorilla survive living as a human? And he did. Do you know he lived in a kid's house, slept with a 10-year-old boy for about 2 years, and he would open the refrigerator and watch TV, and he liked cartoons, and he ate all kinds of candy, and they would hold out his lower lip and pour sodas in. Ivan lived like a human for a long time, and I just thought that would be a fascinating story.
Do you have any advice about writing from the perspective of a suffering animal?
Oh, you sound like a writer. I hope you are. You know what you do? You kind of forget who you are for a while, and you do a lot of research. Research is fun, and it's a great way to procrastinate, by the way. And you find out everything you can about the senses of that animal and the needs of that animal, and that's how you do it. Sorry. I think we have time for about 2 more.
Hi, I'm a school librarian from
We
Montgomery
love
County,
you
Maryland.
guys.
I just spent my pre-service week building a wish tree in the hallway. Thank you for answering my tweet the other day. And I wanted to tell you that we're beginning our school year with a school-wide read-aloud of this book. And we'll, each student will be creating wishes and hopefully turning them into goals for their school year. We're going to use it with our social-emotional learning component. So I just wanted to share that with you and how excited we are to welcome Red and all of his friends into our school.
That is so lovely. It's been the kind of book that people seem to be able to connect with at different levels. In fact, they're releasing it as an adult novel. And what I think is great is I don't care how young you are or how old you are, that we all have things we wish for. We all have hopes and dreams. And I think Red is just a way to help us think about that. So thank you. You know, that book, no book would get anywhere without school librarians. You guys are our heroes. Okay, we have 1 more minute for 1 more question.
What book do you think gave the most impact on a national perspective?
Could you, I'm sorry, repeat the end of that, the most impact?
On a national perspective.
Wow. You mean of mine?
Yeah.
Well, I like to think that's even possible. You know, I think every book is different. So a book that might matter to a whole bunch of people is wonderful, but if one person read, I don't know, Home of the Brave, and it meant something to them. I had a woman write, she's a woman now, she was a girl when she came over as an African refugee, and her letter was short and sweet, and it said, "You wrote my life." And that to me, you know, if she had been the only person who ever read that book, that would have been enough. So thank you all so much. What a glorious audience. You've just been absolutely wonderful. Give yourselves a round of applause.